And hello and welcome to From This Corner TV. I'm your host, Marilyn Dayton. And this is a very, very special program that we have tonight. I wanted to do something special for the week of Thanksgiving. And so I was thinking, what am I really thankful for, other than obviously, you know, my good health at the age of 70 and my family. And I am very, very grateful for my freedom, for the ability to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And the reason that I have freedom is because of our military, our men and women who are serving, who have served, who've protected us. And so I wanted to do a show dedicated to the veterans and to say my thank you. I have veterans in my family. My grandfather was in World War I. My dad was a demolition man in World War II. And my son was in Desert Storm. And then I have a lot of uncles that were also served. And I lost a lot of friends in the Vietnam War. So, so I value my freedom very highly. So I've got two very, very special guests with us tonight. We have Rob Hecker from Honor and Remember. You're going to learn more about that. And I want you to get out your pen and paper because we're going to be talking about some very important things. And we have Micah, here we go, Welintukonis.
Correct.
Did I get it right? He's got a wonderful name, and I don't want to goof it up. So both of these, and Micah has a nonprofit called InTheLineofDuty, and we're going to be talking about that. Both of these gentlemen are veterans, and so I'd like to thank you personally for the freedom that I enjoy today. And I also want to thank you for being a veteran, having served our country. And I'm going to start with you, Rob. Now, you're a veteran and you're still very involved with
so I think that, you know, many veterans understand that after any period of service that we sacrifice a lot, whether it's at a time of war or a time of peace. I'm a submarine veteran, so there were holidays missed, there were birthdays missed. I was, before I was in the submarine force, I was at sea for the birth of my first son.
Oh, wow.
So our families make sacrifices, we make sacrifices, and I don't think that there's any group of people out there that are going to do more for veterans than the veterans. So we should be looking to see what we can do to help each other. And that kind of motivates me to get involved in a lot of different things. Honor and Remember is an organization that has been in Connecticut for over 4 years now, and it's something that's very very special to honor those that made the biggest sacrifice of all. They gave their lives for the freedom that you and Micah and I enjoy every day. So that's what we do.
And you're also involved with the VFW, which is celebrating 100 years of existence this year.
Yeah.
But a lot has changed in those 100 years.
And I think that we are ready for more changes. We need to make more changes. As I'm a member of VFW Post 6573 in Waterford, probably one of the youngest members of the post at 53, and our membership's getting older. And these the newer generation of veterans that are coming back aren't flocking to the VFW, and we need to look at what we offer to today's young veterans, but in way of help and in way of camaraderie. The VFW says no one does more for veterans, but when we start looking in the local areas at some of the posts, the question is, what are we doing today for these veterans? So I think we're going to see some changes coming up in the future.
I'd like to see that because I think from what I've read and what I've heard, one of the important things is that no one understands veterans and what they've been through than other veterans. And so...
You agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Micah, you're very involved, but tell me your story, because you've got, you almost made the supreme sacrifice of losing your life. You came so close. What happened?
9 July 2012, I was deployed in Afghanistan. There was a complex attack on the post we were at. We were living with the Afghan police officers, and during the course of the events I was shot, and then later on hit by a suicide bomber, which put me in a coma for 2 weeks. I actually died twice.
Wow.
And here I am, 2 years later.
But you were injured pretty badly, weren't you?
Yeah, I took shrapnel, actually went through my protective vest. I took shrapnel in my face and my left arm. So.
I saw the pictures of your left arm. But you were in a coma. And when you woke up, where were you?
I woke up at Walter Reed Hospital and just outside of D.C. The last thing I remember was getting on the medevac bird, and I didn't know what day or anything it was.
Wow. And it's been a lot of kind of a painful journey physically to get back to where you are today. Do you still have a lot of pain? Do you have limitations in movement, or?
Yeah. Yep. I got a nice, cool little handicap sticker now that I can pop in my vehicle if I'm in bad pain and need to use it. It's kind of like, I don't think there's a rhyme or a reason to what day pain hits you. Some people are like, oh, the weather.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's weather. I think if you try and push yourself on an activity too much, that probably causes more pain. Now I got a new chiropractor, so for my back, the next day I'm in pretty good pain. So.
Wow. So it's kind of something that you're going to always carry with you, pretty much.
Yep.
So one of the things I wanted to address is, beyond the physical pain, is the psychological pain. I know just from my own family experience, my grandfather, this was before I was born, it was World War I, but the stories are that, he was injured in his back, but when he was they used the term shell-shocked back then.
Right.
He would hear a loud noise and he would jump under whatever he could jump under to hide and protect himself. And I guess it took a long time, but a lot of the families say that he was just never the same person when he came home. And, he drank a lot and just, never quite adjusted back to the kind of life we have here, which is so completely different when you're in war. It's a different world. And you come back home and people are getting upset about such trivial little things. You go, yeah, I watched people die. I almost died. And why are you worried about this or that? It's a huge adjustment. Did you find that you had a bit of an adjustment too, psychologically, when you got home?
Yeah, I've been deployed to 3 separate combat zones, and I think there's always an adjustment because you're so used to doing things a certain way. It's like, say, for example, you're married.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden you're divorced, it's a complete adjustment, or, a loved one dies, that's a complete adjustment because you were so used to, or even a family pet. It's an adjustment because you expect to see something and then, now it's gone. It's the same way of, in combat and being away, and, he was in the Navy, and you're off
Underwater for a while.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden, what do you do when you come back up for fresh air, so to speak?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
I think everybody adjusts slightly differently than everybody else. We're all Americans and we're all people, so there's like a core element to it, but everybody adjusts differently. And then, say if we were at the same thing, or all three of us were sitting here and something happened over there, all three of us would have different perspectives on it.
Yeah,
And different reactions.
exactly. Yeah.
I think this is probably one of the most important things when you, an example of what you were saying about, veterans, understanding what veterans have been through, especially, people who have been in ground combat, hearing explosions, hearing people screaming. In World War II, the greatest generation, they saw some pretty awful things, and they didn't talk about it when they came home. And they were different people for many years. And what we're seeing now is, as they're getting older and dying off, their families are just learning about some of the things that they experienced, some of the things that they saw in their time, whether it was in the Pacific or it was in Europe. So they dealt with it their own way, and for them it was, that was yesterday, today's a new day, let's come home, let's get life back to normal and just forget it. And they acted like it was forgotten and they didn't want to talk about it. But deep inside it was still there. And maybe that's why they drank a little bit more, maybe that's why they weren't the same person that they were, right? Today, and then the same thing happened in Vietnam. When people came home, number one, it wasn't a happy homecoming when Vietnam veterans came home.
No, it wasn't.
Because it wasn't a popular war. And they couldn't look for help that they needed. They had to be strong in the face of the public, in the face of ridicule for going to war. And today we see, veteran suicides in unbelievable numbers because they can't get the help that they need, because they don't realize how quickly it consumes them, and they feel like that there is nowhere for them to go. So as veterans, we need to look for the signs. We need to watch each other's back and make sure that when somebody looks like they need help, that we get them to the right place. And part of that is knowing where, recognizing the signs and where to take them, where to send them to find those things.
And maybe somehow the VFW can be a meeting place that someone can go and look for help from people that would understand.
I think that any veterans organization, whether it be the DAV, VFW, American Legion, should be a resource for our veterans, not just a gathering place. And that's a great thing, to be able to gather with a group of people that have something in common with, but a resource. If a veteran needs something, where should they go? Let's go to the VFW and see if we can get the information about how to get help with our disability claim, how to get help with our medical benefits, things like that. There has to be a service officer at the posts, or affiliated or available to help with anything.
Now, we do have quite a few organizations that are available to help our veterans, but it doesn't seem like it's enough with the number of suicides, the number.
The average rate of veteran suicide now is 22 a day.
Oh my God.
So since I think it was last year or the year before, it was like 1,900 vets had committed suicide. And, I think part of the problem is actually the Department of Veteran Affairs. I think that's huge, and I think I'm actually going to be speaking in New York City next week. And one of the things, myself and another vet, he's a Purple Heart recipient, Mark Donald, he's a Navy SEAL injured in Afghanistan. He is the highest decorated medical service officer since World War II in the Navy. and he also wrote a book called Battle Ready. So Mark and I, we became friends. We met at a veteran event, and some of the stuff we were talking about is, like post-traumatic stress disorder, what they call PTSD. Well, the actual clinical diagnosis of PTSD is a one-time event. So you look at Newtown, one-time event.
Yeah.
Anybody who saw Newtown would be,
A potential
walk in there-
candidate to be.
right, to be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. New York City, 9/11, post-traumatic stress disorder. They actually classify women who get raped as having PTSD. And then you look at an organization like Alcohol Anonymous. One of the reasons why Alcohol Anonymous is so successful, they don't call it alcoholic disorder. So when you call something a disorder, you're giving it a stigma to the person, and you're putting a big stigma around on the community. Oh, he's got a disorder. Well, he must need medication for his disorder. So the VA's, boom, disorder, then we're going to give you a bunch of medication, and then, we're not going to have you talk to other vets who can relate and understand you better. You're going to talk to a psychologist. So I think that needs to be, you need to have a new, in the military we call it an avenue of approach. You got to find an alternate route, because it's like, we're on the 95 corridor right now. If 95's backed up, you got to find a different way.
Right.
And right now the VA's backed up. We need to find a
Right.
different way to, help this. And I think there's also a difference between being depressed. I think depression is and this is, my personal story and my experiences and what happened to me. Like I went from 185 pounds to 130 pounds of nothing. My best friend had to help me go to, the bathroom.
Wow.
And did I ever have suicidal thoughts? Yeah. Was I depressed? Yep. But I think there's a big difference between having suicidal thoughts and actually being suicidal. Where you're actually ready to take your life. So, I thought all my thoughts were normal. They wanted to throw me on medication, and I'm like, nope, I'm not taking it.
Well, considering what you went through, is that a surprise that you feel this way? No. I would say it comes with the situation. You were in battles. I can't even imagine how I don't know how I'd feel if I was where you were.
Yeah, but that's where, training comes in. Like, in the Navy and and it doesn't matter if somebody served in war or didn't serve in war. One of the greatest things you got is, even if you didn't serve in war or you were never injured, whatever, your job was just as important as the Medal of Honor winners. Without that key element that he did in the Navy or somebody else did in the Air Force or in the Coast Guard, whatever, if you took that away, you're taking away a piece of the puzzle. You're taking away the structure on the support beam.
Right.
They say one screw in a key portion of a building and the whole building's going to collapse.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so everybody's job is just as important.
That's true. That's true.
And the other probably most important job is, like my wife, when I got hit, she was actually 5 months pregnant, and my wife has put up with a lot of all the pain and everything else that has gone along with my recovery and stuff like that, and she still puts up with stuff because I got bad days or whatever where I got to go to my room and just chill out for a little while, or I'm in pain, and the kids are like, "Oh, Dad's a bear today," and it's like, yeah, I think I need to get some alone time or something.
Yeah, but you recognize it. And
You know, I'm a guy, and men aren't so great at, you know,
Tell them all the secrets.
it's women that recognize stuff that, you know, men do that, you know, that, you know, my wife, I joke around and say she has a frying pan and she whacks me upside the head, you know, but without my wife, I probably would have gone to, and not just my wife, but it was other vets that have, you know, been a tremendous help. And I can't say it was any of the shrinks or psychologists. It's, you know, your family and friends and, you know, other vets that really keep you in there, keep you in the game and fight.
well, you know, when you were talking about I got your back, okay, you hear that a lot in the military because that's how you survive.
That's right.
Why should that change when they come home? That shouldn't change when
On a
they come home.
submarine, we're traveling under the water. Every single person on that ship, just like every single person in your unit when you're in battle, is responsible for everybody else. If something happens, the lowest person can be the one that's going to save everybody on board. If there's flooding, you're trained to handle any potential situation that comes up, just like you are, and your men are. When you go to battle, you're trained to handle every situation that comes up, and it's all about watching out for each other, you know, making sure we all get home safely.
Yeah.
And I think that should continue, that there should be some way that that continues when you get home, because as we've been saying, and it bears repeating, veterans are the only ones that can understand what the other veterans have been through. When my dad came home from World War II, he was a quiet guy, and he didn't talk about anything. He didn't talk about what he did. Turns out he was a demolition man over in Europe, and I didn't hear about that. My mother didn't know about that until a movie came out called Demolition Man. And I thought, when I saw that movie, I thought, wow, you know, there are guys in the real world who have to do that, whose responsibility that is. And my mother said, like your dad, he was a demolition man. And I went, oh my God, I had no idea. But he could not talk about his experience. A look would come over him if somebody mentioned the war, and he'd have to get up and leave the room. He just couldn't talk about it, couldn't think about it. And he did develop a very bad drinking problem. And one of his buddies from the war, that they were best buddies over in Europe, came for a visit. And that was the turning point for him, because he and his buddy were both going through the same problems. And they started spending a lot of time together. They come up, I think we were living in New York State, and they were from New Jersey, I think. They come up for a visit for a weekend or something, and the guys would go off and spend time together. And then they go down and spend time. And that was how both of them were able to readjust. But you know, when even my dad, he'd see my brother and I fighting or something, you know, for some stupid thing.
Sure.
And he'd say, that is so unimportant in the scheme of life and in the world. That right there is so unimportant.
Right.
And I never understood. I was a kid.
And that friend that came to visit your father, number one, your father probably realized he wasn't the only person feeling the way he did, because his friend was probably going through a lot of the same things. And it gave them an opportunity to talk to each other about things they had in common that he couldn't talk to with anybody else.
Absolutely.
So that's the things we're talking about.
Yeah. And we were going to have Rob Simmons as part of our discussion today. And Rob is a veteran of Vietnam War, and he's always got a lot to say about what can we do with the legislature, and how you can make a change yourself, who you can write to, and that kind of thing. And he is going to come on a show in the future. And I want to continue this kind of speaking, because and those of you who are active veterans, okay, who you know that there's an event coming up in support of veterans, please send me an email. Let me know about it, and I can announce it on the show. Sometimes we need 2 or 3 weeks notice, because sometimes we're taping ahead of time. But please let me know so I can tell people about it. I can put it up on Facebook. We all have our circles of people that we know. And please feel free to use my circles. I've got several of them, my several lives here. And please let me know what's going on that you want to share with people. And I'll be happy to talk about it. I always do at the end of the show. So I hope you've got your pen and paper. And there's how you can get a hold of me. I hope you have your pen and paper handy, because we're going to be talking about some nonprofits now, some very involved nonprofits. And maybe you feel like, I'd like to do something. What can I do? And maybe we'll have some ideas that we can share with you. Now, I know you have started a nonprofit. So tell us a little bit about it.
So it was actually based on my injuries and my wife being down. She had to leave her work, and she didn't fall under the Family Medical Leave Act, because that only covers if you have employees of 35 or more. So, she was down there. I was inpatient at Walter Reed for 46 days, and then an outpatient for another roughly 3 months. And so she had to take all that time, and she's not working, so bills started piling up. So we started. I did a walk, a 54-mile walk on my anniversary date, and we gave to an organization which I later found out I wasn't too keen upon. And then so we got this idea together, like firefighters, police, EMS, and military, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth. And, like you get a firefighter running up, your house, like they don't know you. They're running in a perfectly, an inferno to save people, and they get injured too, and police officers do. And I'm sure everybody heard about, Hartford Fire Department. They just lost a firefighter about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and 3 of the firefighters were injured. So we came up with this concept called In the Line of Duty, and it's for, our first responders. And so our mission, basically, we just provide immediate financial aid. So if somebody's got Bridgeport's a huge burn center, but if you're from the Hartford area, you're down in critical care in Bridgeport, your family's going to want to be there.
Oh, yeah.
So we helped out Hartford Fire, we helped out Manchester Police Department, a couple other departments, and there's no paperwork involved. I get a phone call or an email, and we got 3 other Purple Heart recipients on the board, and we have a wounded police officer. He's now medically retired out, Todd Lantoka, out of East Hartford. His cruiser got hit from behind, pulled over on the highway, and the canine cage came up, slapped him in the back of the head. So he's now blind.
Oh, wow.
And then an Manchester police officer was shot during a domestic dispute. So everybody we all teamed up, and we all understand the concept, and it's just about helping those that risk their lives. But we're trying to take a proactive approach,
Yeah.
Like all fundraisers are always done after the fact.
Absolutely,
And none of us get a paycheck. We're 100% volunteer, and it's a Connecticut only thing. And you could just go on Google, In the Line of Duty, one word, In the Line of Duty, one word, and hit Facebook, and will pop up.
So where did the funds come from?
Donations, so we
And
could,
fundraisers and?
yeah, we did, we just started off this year, so we had raised about $1,000, and at one point, we went down to $77 after Hartford fire happened.
Yeah.
And so when I'm speaking, they're going to reimburse me for my travel and stuff, but then they just make a donation right to the charity, which we teamed up with Connecticut AmVets.
Have you considered doing some crowd funding? Crowd fund?
What's it called, crowd rise?
There's like GoFundMe, there's,
Yeah,
quite a
I got an
few.
online website as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to email to you.
Yes, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about it on the show, and we can have the, there's your Facebook page right now.
Yep.
And, but, crowdfunding is an amazing thing. I know my guest for this past show, she wrote a book on her experience, which was amazing, her survival experience. And she's going to crowdfunding in order to get money to publish her book. And people send in $5, $10, $25, $50, and it adds up. It's amazing. And that might be something that you should think about, actively going and getting. Eric can help you with that. He's been doing that for his eco grow farms. He's very, he's had to learn a lot about crowdfunding. And matter of fact, I talked to Eric March, is a friend of mine, and I talked to him today, and he said, we're ready to go. We're going to be up on crowdfunding, in another day or two. And, different people have different interests.
Right.
And different commitments and different ways of looking at life. And there's millions of people out there who can give 5 or 10 or more, and it adds up. And for a cause like this, which is just so needed, so necessary, I think this is something that, might be a good idea to do. Like you said, you had $1,000 and then $70-some. I mean, you need a lot to help people.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, personally, I don't think we need a lot. It's not every day that people, first responders get injured. But the ideal goal is to be able to give, between $500 and $1,000 to, somebody that's hospitalized,
Unfortunately, that doesn't go too far today, like it used to. But,
yeah, but it's it's a little buffer, so, and you're even thinking about pets, like almost every family today has got pets, so even if they just need to take their pets and put them up in housing, and
exactly.
You're just relieving the burden a little bit.
Now, if somebody goes to your Facebook page, can they see where to go if they want to donate?
Yeah, I mean, they can message me, just send me a message, hey, I can't find it.
What do I do?
Right, because the way Facebook, they post your latest thing, so you probably have to scroll down to the bottom or whatever to find it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. I think that's congratulations. I think it's a good step forward. There are people that need help, and you say, I'm going to help them, and do it.
Well, Governor Malloy just re-won the election, so let's see if we can get him to mention it.
Oh, that would be nice. That would be nice.
Or maybe Governor Malloy will donate.
Maybe he will. Maybe he will. That's a good point for us
Is
to
he
take
in your fan base, Marilyn?
I don't think so.
Oh. Maybe we can send him a copy.
Maybe we can. I'd be happy to. Yeah.
Great.
Because it's, doesn't matter where you are. I've got this YouTube page and the website, and, I have all that stuff. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to show you more about Honor and Remember, too. It's a wonderful thing that Rob is doing. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes, so stay tuned.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darts there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
And welcome back. It's Thanksgiving time. And at Thanksgiving time, we want to give thanks to those that help us the most. And the ones that help us the most in our country are our veterans and our military men and women. And this is a program, and the first of many, I think, that I'm going to have to pay tribute to people that help our veterans. And we have with us today a couple of veterans who are very, very involved. Micah's been talking about his In the Line of Duty, and Rob is going to tell us a little bit more about Honor and Remember. Now, where did this come from?
So I'll give you a little history. December 2005. George Lutz, who's the founder of Honor and Remember, lives in Chesapeake, Virginia. Got a knock on his door. And there's two military officers standing outside the door. And they asked if he could come in and talk to him. And the words that they said that day started with, "We regret to inform you." And his son Tony was killed by a sniper in Fallujah, Iraq. So, he at that point felt like he had joined a large group of family members who, not just in Iraq and later in Afghanistan, but had dealing with the loss of a family member who was sworn to defend our country. So he met a lot of parents, and they all had a lot of commonality in the things that they felt, much like when we're talking about veterans who come home. The parents, the family members have the same type of things. They need to be with each other. There's Gold Star family organizations, Gold Star mothers and families, and they support each other. And then there's the TAPS program, which is for survivors. And there were a couple of things that he got from all these conversations that everybody told him the same thing. Number one, we don't want the sacrifice of our family member, our loved one, to be forgotten. And number two, we don't want it to be in vain. We want people to honor that sacrifice that they made. So he started looking for a symbol that, that expressed that feeling that these parents had, to be able to go back to them and say, people do remember, and people do, appreciate that. And there really was nothing. Now, we all served and fought under the American flag. That we're not trying to diminish anything about that, but there's so many meanings to that. Everybody, if you walk down the street and say, tell me the meaning of the red, white, and blue, everybody's meaning's different. Yours is different than mine, and yours is different also. So I was looking for something specific that was for these families of our fallen military service members, and couldn't find anything. So he went on a quest to develop something, and he came up with the Honor and Remember flag. So we're about, maybe 6 years in. Memorial Day 2008, he unveiled the Honor and Remember flag in Virginia. And since then, the mission is, number one, to gain recognition on a national basis so that the Honor and Remember flag will become an official symbol of remembrance of those who are fallen in service. And number two, to let these families know, and the best way we can do that is to present them with a flag and remember their loved one by name. And we do that by personalizing these flags. So we started in Connecticut in 2011, presented our first flag here in this area. I was the founding director of the Connecticut chapter, and we started with somebody that we, as a group of friends of mine, no specific organization, we tried to help a young widow. Her name was Yesenia Rivera. Her husband Edwin was killed, and we presented her with the first flag in Connecticut, and we haven't stopped. We just keep going. We're looking for legislative approval in Connecticut, legislative approval across the United States, federal as well as state. We're already recognized in 18 states across the country, but we haven't gotten that federal recognition yet, and we haven't gotten the state recognition. But every time we do an event, politicians are there, and we talk to them about our cause. It's a very simple design, has a lot of meaning to it, and I want to share a flag with you right now, if we can.
Yes, please. Okay, I'm going to kind of stay out of the way while we show the flag.
Right up. Okay. So this is a personalized Honor and Remember flag. It's the duplicate of a flag that we presented in Voluntown to the family of Private Harold Violet, who was killed in France in World War II. Memorial Day 2012, we went to Voluntown and we presented 5 flags to family members of the 5 Voluntown residents who gave their lives in service to the United States. So we've presented in Connecticut somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 flags. Every one of them has the name of the loved one on it, the date that they died, and the location. So, we can see by this in France during World War II. And we've presented them, Vietnam veterans, Korean War, World War II, Iraq and Afghanistan, Desert Storm 1, and the list goes on. We have 65 fallen military service members in Iraq and Afghanistan from Connecticut, and maybe we're 25 or 30 into that list, so we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But it's not just for our Iraq and Afghanistan casualties, it's for all services. In fact, they've presented a flag on a national basis to a family member of somebody who was killed in the American Revolution. So that's where it all started, right?
Wow.
Men and women, men left their homes to defend the freedom of the United States. So that was kind of a ceremonial, important one for us to go back that far to recognize that first sacrifice. But, every one of them is a story.
Of course.
Every one of them is incredible, the things that they went through. And the families are absolutely inspiring. The things that they do to keep the memory of their loved one alive. It doesn't matter if it's a scholarship fund, a golf tournament to raise money for a favorite charity, a birthday party every year to raise money, and to celebrate the life of their lost loved one. So we've met all of these families. We've formed a bond with them over the years. Just because we presented them with a flag, we don't forget about them. We stay involved with them. And sometimes it's about more than just the flag. We put up a flagpole in the father's yard because his American flag was hanging from a tree. Because he didn't have one, but he wanted to display that flag, the flag that his son fought for and died. So while he was out of town, he was at Arlington for his son's birthday. A few friends of mine, including Cliff, went to his house and put up a flagpole. And when he came home, the American flag was flying from the new flagpole. So it's not just about the flag, it's about letting these people know that we're not going to forget about the loss that they suffered, the loss that we all suffered, and we also want to tell them that there are people who are worthy of the sacrifice that their family made. We live our life to be worthy of their loss.
Absolutely.
There should be an example to all of us to work harder, to be more giving, to be more understanding.
It's a beautiful flag. What's the symbolism that's involved in that display?
Well, so here's, I'm going to put up a graphic here so we can take a look at this. There are, several different components of the flag, as you could see on the personalized flag I showed you. So this explains it, and I'll just give you a little bit of information. I'm sure this is difficult for you to read. The red field represents blood spilled by brave men and women in America's military history who gave their lives so that our nation would remain free. The white field below the gold star recognize the purity of sacrifice. There's no greater sacrifice an American can pay than to give his or her life in service to our country. The blue star represents active service in military conflict. It started in World War II, but for our purposes will represent that service all the way back to the Revolutionary War from the beginning of our nation. The gold star signifies the ultimate sacrifice of a warrior in active service who won't be returning home. Gold reflects the value of the life that they gave up. One of the things that's always important to me is to make sure that when we do these flag presentations to these families, that we share more than just their name, but we share a little bit of information about their family, about their service, so people know it's not just a name carved in granite on a memorial someplace. It's somebody who had a life, who had a family, who had a future, and gave all of that up for freedom. The folded flag signifies the final tribute to an individual at military funerals. If you haven't seen one before, it's very emotional. Taps playing. The flag is removed from the coffin and then folded and presented to the family with the words, on behalf of a grateful nation. We want to recognize that as a symbol of that gratitude. And then the flame is an eternal reminder of the spirit that's departed, and it keeps burning in the memory of all of those who love them. So a lot of components, but when you look at the flag in one piece, it seems very simple, but it has a great deal of meaning. And probably most importantly, the meaning that it has to the families when they receive it. And I can tell you, a number of stories, but every year we're involved with an organization called Run for the Fallen. So it's a Connecticut organization, and they have runs all over the country, but in Connecticut they run every year in Middletown. And they run a distance of 65 kilometers, one for every one of Connecticut's fallen heroes, which comes out to somewhere around 43 or 44 miles, so you can do the math. But there's a marker at every kilometer to honor one of the 65. And at the end, we're always invited to present honor and remember flags at the ceremonies. Last year, 2013, we presented, I believe, 3 flags. 2 of them were for Iraq and Afghanistan casualties. The other one was for a Vietnam casualty. And his mother was there to receive the flag in her 80s. And it's one of our priorities to get those flags delivered before their families are no longer with us to receive them. She needed assistance to stand and to walk. We were in the grass at a school, and when we presented her with that flag, first we turned around to show her the personalized portion of the flag, but we folded it up and handed it to her, and she just grabbed that flag and hugged it and kissed it, because it was now hers to remember, to know that we remembered her son who died in 1968. It had been so many years, and he was remembered, and that was the emotion of the day. That was the photograph of the day, was her holding that flag in her hands and kissing it with tears running down her face. So it's important for them, for the families of our fallen, and I'm sure they're not the only ones. The friends, the families, the fellow service members that may have served with them. It's important for them to know that they're not forgotten. And we do it, every year on the Honor and Remember Connecticut Facebook page. On anniversaries, we post a picture of every one of the fallen that we've presented flags to, and some of the families that we haven't presented flags to, just to let them know that we're thinking about them on that day. That's a tough day for them.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. I've got my dad's flag. And
I have my father's too.
Yeah. And, I look at that. I've got it where I can see it every day. And I've also got his dog tags. And I don't have an awful lot other than that, except for memories and pictures. And, it's almost like an emotional salute, because it's right by my bed. When I get up in the morning, it's like I say, "Hi, Dad,"
Sure.
And it's, so I'm getting a little, so I can see why that would be such an emotional time. I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's,
Yep.
absolutely.
So we'll be doing a flag presentation tomorrow in Guilford. Next week is Veterans Day. We'll be in Meriden in the morning of Veterans Day to present a flag to the family of a fallen Vietnam service soldier. And November 19th, your friends at the Women's Network of Southeastern Connecticut have invited us to present a flag at their November luncheon, where they'll be saluting veterans. We have the Silver Dolphins Honor Guard will be there to present the colors. The Coast Guard Academy Glee Club will be there to sing the service anthems, and maybe a few sea shanties. And we'll be presenting a flag to the family of a sailor from New London area who during World War II served on a submarine, and the submarine was lost at sea with 76 men on board. So he never returned home to his family. And it's a family that has a great record of service. I went to the funeral of one of the, he was the former post commander of the VFW in Waterford, and I saw a picture of him in his Army uniform, and then I saw another picture in an Army uniform, and then a Marine, and then a sailor, and I was like, my gosh, your whole family served. I was talking to his son, and he goes, oh yeah, that's my father, that's my uncle, that was my father's cousin, and so the whole family had served, and we found out that Carl Grimes, was his name, was lost at sea with the crew of the submarine, and we decided that would be an appropriate memorial to be able to present a flag to his family. Not just honor his service and his sacrifice, but the service of his whole family. So
Absolutely.
We're looking forward to that.
And I wish I could be there. I know Deb had mentioned it to me, and I said, I'm going to be gone most of November. I'm going to go see my son in Japan. That's why we're filming this so early. But that's the Southeastern Connecticut Women's Network, and it's a wonderful organization.
And you can find that event on Facebook too.
Absolutely, yes. So I just wish I could be there, but hopefully somebody will take a lot of pictures, and I'll be there in spirit.
I'm sure they will.
I'll be there in spirit. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
And Micah, what a pleasure to meet you, and thank you again for everything you've done to keep me safe and free, both of you. Thank you so much.
We're just a drop in the bucket.
You got it.
There's so many.
Oh, there are. There's so many.
Thank you for having me, though.
Yeah. Well,
And have a safe trip.
thank you. I can't wait. I'm excited. I usually make announcements at this time before we sign off, but the only announcement I'd like to make is please say a prayer and a thank you to all of our military men and women who are keeping us safe. Make your Thanksgiving very special, which it will be with your family and friends, but please remember those who we've lost and those who are continuing to fight to keep us safe.
And their families.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back with a hypnotist for our next show, which will be very interesting. And I'm going to have a disclaimer for that one in case she hypnotizes me and makes me do something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But remember, if you've got ideas, anything you want to share, someone that you think should come on the show, please send me an email, and I'll answer you, and we'll see if we can make it happen. Thanks so much for joining us today. You have a great and safe and healthy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Thank you, guys.